Hello and welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure to have you there. And of course, we want to welcome you. And of course, James McNeil joins us once again on the program. Now, James, it's been a while since you and I have had a chance to sit down and talk a little bit.
It's good to see you back, James. Thank y'all for coming out.
Absolutely. And we've just wrapped up 2015, going into 2016. How did 2015 treat you?
Well, you know, we got the new Hunter Quick Check in 2015, and 2015 was a record year.
Fantastic.
We worked on, I think we had over 4,100 vehicles come into the shop.
Wow.
And that brings our grand total, since we've been keeping up with it, to about 78,000 vehicles that we've worked on here at Precision Automotive.
So from day one to now, about 78,000
vehicles.
Wow,
so we've
that's
met
incredible.
a lot of people.
Absolutely. A lot of happy customers over the years.
You bet.
So that is a fantastic number and something that I'm sure you're very proud of.
We are very proud of that.
Wow, fantastic. Well, now I know we added the Hunter Quick Check, and a lot of things have been going on as far as the shop is concerned over 2015, looking into 2016 now, of course. I got a question for you, though.
Okay.
Looking back over those some 78,000 vehicles, you know, service and customer satisfaction has always been, you know, priority one. But how has the technology changed? How have things changed over all of those years, as far as you're concerned?
It's a very dramatic change. I hear in our industry a lot of times people they parallel it with the first spaceship that went to the moon. That the car that you're driving has more computers and more technology, faster processors, a lot more complicated technology than what sent someone to the moon. So
wow.
It's changed a lot.
Well, and of course that's part of what you guys are really, I guess, excel at is keeping up with that technology, keeping up with all the things that are going on in the industry. From the Hunter Quick Check, which we looked at in 2015, to some new things that you've got going on now. Now you've added a brand new piece of equipment that we're going to get to look at today.
That's right. In 2016, we purchased it's a Misfire scope, and it's made by ATS, and we're real excited about it. And it's going to bridge the gap on a lot of diagnostics that are hard to complete. You know, we'll have a car that comes in, the consumer could have stopped off at a parts store or had it at a previous shop, and they cleared the codes. So when we get the car, the computer's wiped out as far as erased clean, like it has no problems, but obviously you look down and the engine is running poorly.
Right.
This machine is going to be able to help us figure out what's wrong with the car.
Right. Well, I know a lot of times, like if I bring in a car or something like that, and I'm dealing with the vehicle, I drive that car every day. I know it's not running right.
That's right.
And you know, I know people have had this experience. They take it to a shop, they take it someplace, and they plug it into the machine, and they go, "Well, it shows that you've got no codes. You're fine."
Right.
But you're sitting there looking at it, and going, "But it's not running right."
Right.
So this takes care of that. Basically, this circumvents that.
Right. You know, you drive your own vehicle, and you really know more about the way your vehicle drives than the mechanic does.
Sure.
And when you sense that you have a problem with your car, it's so disheartening to go to a shop and them hook a scanner up to it and say, "No codes, there's nothing wrong with your car," and you know that there's something wrong with your car because you feel it.
Sure.
And so this piece of equipment here, it gives live data. I'm going to have my ASE Master Technician Neil Swafford demonstrate it for you. But what it does is it goes in, and without even touching your car's factory computer, it has a device that fits in the exhaust pipe. And the other device hooks to your number one cylinder. And just with those two inputs, it's going to give us engine data as far as how your engine's running. And so it's an exhaust. It bolts into the exhaust, and it knows every time that a cylinder hits that there's an explosion, there's a pulse. And this machine is very sophisticated. It goes in there and it counts all those pulses. One of the things I'm excited about, James, is let's say a customer comes in and they've got a check engine light on, and we look at it, and sure enough, it has a P301, which is a cylinder one misfire. We'll look, and sure enough, it needs a plug or something simple, and we replace that, and there's no other codes in the computer, and then we let our customer go. 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, they bring it back, and the check engine lights came back on again, and now they have a cylinder 3 misfire or a cylinder 4 misfire. And with this piece of equipment, not only can we see the number one cylinder misfire, even if the car's computer system hasn't recognized the cylinder 3 or cylinder 4 misfire, this machine will let us know, hey, Number 1's missing right now, but number 3 is right behind it. Number 4 is fixing to fail also.
Which that goes a long ways to keeping a customer satisfied,
Yes.
because the last thing that they want to do is bring a
Bring
car
it back.
back in
That's
2
right.
weeks. And to them, a lot of times too, it's just that it's a misfire.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
That's
well, they
right.
didn't fix it the first time. It's the same thing.
They didn't fix it the first time, right. So this is going to take a little headache out for us also. But we want to have the best equipment. We want to be the shop that can fix the hard problems. And another things, we work on all makes and all models. So if you bring us a Volvo, an Audi, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Porsche, BMW, we're going to work on it.
Right.
And the neatest thing about this piece of equipment is it hooks into exhaust pipe, which every car has an exhaust pipe, and every car has a number 1 cylinder.
Right. So it doesn't matter what you're driving.
It doesn't matter what you're driving. This piece of equipment is going to be able to hook up to it and give us a lot of live data about what's going on with your engine right then. So we're super excited about it.
Well, it does. It sounds like one of the most exciting pieces of equipment that you've purchased in a long, long time. I'm very excited to take a look at it. We're going to go back and check out Neil and see if he's got it all set up for us.
Again, it's good to have you all back, and I appreciate everyone watching the program.
Well, we're back here in the back now, and of course we find our old buddy Neil Swafford. Neil, thanks for taking some time out to talk with us about the things that you guys have got going on. We were just visiting with James out front, and boy, what an incredible year 2015 turned out to be for you guys. Some fantastic numbers that you guys put up, and looking forward to 2016. Lots of cool things going on. And he was telling us about one of your latest additions as far as equipment is concerned, and he said that you were going to be able to kind of give us the whole 411 on everything.
Give you the rundown on it. Right. Well, we've got a new piece of equipment that we've got. It's a misfire detector. A lot of your cars nowadays, they can detect misfires through the computer and through different sensors on the car.
Right.
But there is a threshold to which it has to meet before it's going to set the code. So you can drive along and have a misfire every once in a while, and really never even know.
Notice, yeah.
And without the light coming on to let you know there's a problem, you might never know. Whether it's compression, whether it's vacuum leak, spark plug, valve problems. There's lots of different things that can play into that factor.
Okay. Well, now, as you're driving, of course, when people say, well, my car's running fine, it's not misfiring, but, I mean, it's literally running, and that cycle is tens of thousands of times a day.
Right.
So you would probably have some type of a misfire. Is that what a lot of times causes or leads to other problems? I mean, is that basically I know that's something that happens, but is it something that can cause continuing problems?
Yes, it's kind of a two-way street. There are things that on your vehicle that can cause misfires, and there are misfires that can cause other problems. For instance, if you've got restricted fuel injectors, it can cause a misfire. If you've got valves that aren't sealing, they can cause a misfire. Worn spark plugs, weak coils, and on the other hand, you can have a misfire, and that excess fuel that's not getting burned is going to go into the exhaust, which can in turn cause a PO420, which a lot of people get, which is a catalyst deficiency code, which means the catalytic converter is not working right, or in turn it can actually damage the oxygen sensors, and it can damage the catalytic converters to stop the exhaust up.
Wow. So again, this is something that's important to know. No matter what kind of vehicle that you're driving, what this machine does basically is measures the exhaust, because that's a commonality among all vehicles, is you have an exhaust, and as James was explaining to us earlier, it measures the pulses.
Yes.
And it's basically a super sensitive exhaust sniffer, I guess. Is that right?
Pretty much. Okay. Pretty much. What it's going to do is it's going to hook into the exhaust, and it's going to determine the pulses.
Okay.
Every time the exhaust valve opens and the piston pushes the exhaust out, it's going to push pressure through the exhaust, and this sensor is going to detect that.
Okay.
Well, anytime there is a disruption in, for instance, a misfire, it's going to change that pulse. So that pulse is not going to be as intense as it was as a cylinder that was hitting. Okay, great. So what this thing's going to do is it's going to hook into the exhaust, it's going to watch the pulses, and it's going to hook up to cylinder number 1. Okay. And every motor has a firing order, which means when number 1 fires, it's going to start off with number 1, and then it's going to go 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2, which is on a Chevrolet, and different motors have different firing orders. Right. So what it's going to do is it's going to have to know when number 1 hits, and it's going to need to know which cylinders follow. So once the machine knows where number 1 is and when number 1 fires, it knows, all right, if number 1 fired here, and we've got a misfire, we're gonna go through the firing order and say, all right, this is our misfire, which is going to tag it on the corresponding cylinder.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and get it hooked up and take a look, can we?
All right. Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull codes and make sure that, that we don't have any codes. The customer's taking it somewhere else. Running problem. They've had the codes pulled, no codes. They told them there's nothing wrong with it.
So what we'll basically get is a situation where it looks like everything's okay.
Right.
But then we're going to find out that
it's not okay.
It's not okay. All right. So it's a mystery. All right. Let's go ahead and do that then.
All right. So the first thing we're going to do, we've got our scanner hooked up.
Okay.
Which is in here.
Okay. Now, Neil, what we're going to do here is hook up this piece of equipment, but this isn't just a fly-by-night, old-timey, bend down, pull the codes out, or anything like that. Right. This is a really nice piece of equipment too.
Right. This is actually part of the Snap-on Veris.
Okay.
Which is actually it's made by Snap-on. It uses a wireless Bluetooth interface, which means there's no cables. It gives me a lot more room to be able to plug into the car and move around to the car and check different things and not have to worry about trying to find a place to set the scanner or pulling the cord loose.
Wow.
So it's all makes, all models. It does vehicle-specific codes, which we've mentioned in the past.
Right.
You have generic codes, which is what your little cheap scanners pull in, or the cheap scanner codes.
Like you get it like a auto repair or a parts store.
They're going to plug it in. It's going to give you generic codes, which you could have vehicle-specific codes and not be able to pull them with those little cheap scanners, where this will actually pull vehicle-specific codes.
And this isn't a cheap unit, and what's going to happen is basically the new machine is going to outdo this.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much?
Well, it's going to assist with this.
Okay. All right.
There are things that will do that this won't do. So.
Awesome. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and hook this one up, and we'll take a look and see what we get. We've automatically ID'd the vehicle.
Right.
Okay, so that way we know we've got exactly what we need as far as the vehicle is concerned. We're not accidentally punching in the wrong year number or anything like that.
Right, which could give us false codes, could give us a no communication problem.
Right. So so it's sort of a fail-safe thing as far as that's concerned. And now we're ready to find out what this can tell us.
Let's see what codes are in it.
Okay.
So we're going to go to engine, which is where our engine control or engine codes are going to be located.
Okay.
We're going to display the codes. No codes.
All right. So that says no codes present. So according to this unit, everything should be fine.
Should be.
Okay. But we know that it's not. Okay. All right. Very good. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to hook up the new misfire detector, and we're going to read what the exhaust is actually telling us, which will give us something that will surprise us. Well, we know what's going to happen, but it's going to surprise us a little bit. Right. All right. All right. Very good. Neil's going to wheel in our misfire detector. And you said that this was made by a company called ATS.
ATS, Automotive Test Solutions. They're actually, they have test equipment, and they're actually a shop too. Okay. So what they found out is they're working on cars. They come across problems and things that were just taking too long to figure out, or things they couldn't figure out. So they came up with actual test equipment on their own, and they market it and manufacture it, and good stuff.
Wow,
really
fantastic,
good stuff.
Cool. So this is really one of the latest things that's out there.
Yes, this is the latest thing they have out right now.
Fantastic. All right, well, very good. Well, Neil, now we're going to get things hooked up here. So what's our first step?
First step that we're going to do, we talked about the firing order and the number one cylinder. It's going to count the pulses coming out of the exhaust. So we're going to hook onto the number one cylinder. Okay. And we're going to get this thing configured so that we know we get the correct information. So we're going to go in here to our configuration.
Okay.
It's a General Motors product.
And it's a 2007.
2007. And V8.
Okay.
All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our exhaust probe, which is what this right here is. All this is going to do is it's going to clamp into the exhaust, and you can see right here the exhaust is going to come through, and every time the exhaust comes through, there's a pulse from each cylinder. It's going to watch for those pulses. Anytime there's a pulse or lack of a pulse, it's going to display it on our graph.
Now, I'm assuming too this is all wireless as well.
This is actually this is wired.
Oh, this is wired?
This one's actually wired.
Okay. All right. Very good.
So we're going to go put this in the exhaust.
Okay, let's go do it. So one wire coming back to the main unit here.
Yes.
From the exhaust.
From our exhaust port, or from our exhaust probe, it's going to go into here.
Okay.
This is going to be a filter, and what this is going to do, this is going to clamp on the plug wire using this clamp. And
okay.
anytime the number one cylinder sparks, it's going to create a little bit of electromagnetic, a small field,
okay.
which is going to, this inductive clamp is going to pick that up and transfer it to this box.
Okay.
So that in turn is going to let this computer know when number one fires, so it can know what cylinders are coming afterwards.
Okay, all right, very good. I was asking James earlier, he mentioned that over the course of years now, it's been like 78,000 vehicles that Precision has worked on or helped folks with. And I asked him about the technology changing over all those years. What's your thoughts on that? Is it markedly different? What's the biggest thing that you've seen difference?
The biggest thing that I've seen is just the add-on of different things into the cars, which is more like convenience stuff. Convenience and safety, really, I guess.
Right.
Where you've got the DVD players, you've got the Bluetooth, you've got, where your phone plugs, automatically connects. Like I've got a 2014 Camaro. I can get in it and my phone can be in the trunk, and I'm driving down the road and somebody can send me a message, and it's got a heads-up display, and it'll actually display the message on the radio and on my heads-up display. So,
well, it makes you wonder what it's going to be like in another 15 years.
Oh my goodness.
All right, move this a little closer.
A little bit closer. All right. So we've got this hooked up to our number one cylinder.
Okay.
And then we're hooked up to our box.
Okay.
So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to our misfires, and then we're going to crank the vehicle up. Like I said, it's going to count the pulses, and it's going to watch for any irregular pulse, a missing pulse, and let us know which cylinder that's corresponding with, if any.
And that goes on the number one.
Number one plug wire.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to crank it up.
All right. So Neil, we've got everything hooked up, and we're starting to get a data feed here on our misfire detector from ATS. And now it kind of looks like a electrocardiogram.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about those here recently. Tell me what's going on here, because to me, I know that in your trained eye, you're seeing things, but I'm not seeing them. So tell me what we're looking at.
What we're looking at is every time the exhaust valve opens and the piston pushes the exhaust out, it's going to create a pulse.
Okay.
All right, and every time it's watching those pulses. Okay. And the way that it's going to lay each pulse out is we hooked our trigger up on number one, and we've got our firing order 1843657 So every time it sees number one fire, it knows that 8's coming after it, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2. And anytime one of those pulses is missing or disrupted, it's going to know where it happened.
Okay.
All right. But we can kind of look across here. We'll pause it just for a second.
Okay.
And you can see we've got a few down here that are low.
Okay. So compared to these three look off.
Right.
Okay.
Which is going to be cylinder 5, cylinder 7, cylinder 2. So they're off just a little bit, except that in no check engine light, no codes. They just, not necessarily a dead miss, but it's running a little uneasy.
Okay.
We can look up here. We can see number 1, no misfires. Number 2 or number 8, we've got a couple, and I'm sure the longer we let this run, the more it's going to detect.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and let this thing run just a little bit.
Now, would this be the kind of thing, if I'm just, is it a good idea to come in and maybe have this hooked up and just check as a preventative type of deal too? Because you could detect problems down the road?
It's very possible. Okay. We need 3 things for ignition. We need fuel, fire, and compression. Not every cylinder is going to hit every single time. In a perfect world, they might. In real life, it's not likely.
Right.
And that's where the kind of that buffer comes in for the manufacturer, where you might have a cylinder that misses every once in a while, and for a problem that's going to occur just here and there, they don't want the light to come on, so they don't want that too sensitive to where the light's having to come on every single time there's a single misfire.
Right.
So, actually, you can see right now, this one's really starting to count them.
Oh wow, it's up to 8 at this point, and it's changed color too.
Yes. Now it's let us know it's in the yellow, so we might need to focus some attention in that area.
Okay. Oh, and now it's up to 9. So the longer you leave it,
every time you can see up here, every time it detects a miss, you'll see these illuminate.
Oh, there it is. Did you get that? Yeah, awesome. Cool.
And this is something that driving down the road, car runs good, drives good. A little bit of a, the customer just says, hey, it's just not like it was.
Well, and like we're sitting here, we're right next to this vehicle. I can hear it running. It sounds great.
Sounds good.
Sounds better than my car does right now. So, I mean, and you feel of it and everything. I mean, it's just as smooth as can be. Right. But that is amazing. Oh, wow, now we're up to 30. Oh, it's going crazy now. We're up to 30. So, yeah, this vehicle definitely needs some help. So, all right. So from this, we will do what now?
From this, we're going to inspect. We're going to need to determine, is it a fuel problem? Do we have an injector that's restricted? A vacuum leak on that particular cylinder? Do we have a valve train problem? Maybe a lifter that's not working right, a valve that's not sealing, a broke valve spring, maybe a damaged ring, compression's down. Or do we have a worn out spark plug? Do we have worn out plug wires? Do we have a weak coil? Lots of different factors. We just need to get our hands dirty now and see what we can find.
Yeah. You know, the really neat thing about this is it really boils down to isolating the problem and going after the particular area. And any tool that helps you do that, and the great thing about Precision Automotive and the folks here is they have some of the latest tools just like this. I mean, you're not going to find another one of these probably for 100 miles.
Probably not.
So they've got the latest tools to take care of your vehicles, and they can go after those problems, you know, down to like microscope precision. And that's so great because it saves you money, it saves you time. It's just a great thing to have here in the community. So this is awesome. This is really a neat piece of equipment. You know, of all the things that you've showed me, and maybe it's because I understand this one more than some of the other things, of all the things that you guys have showed me over the years, this seems like the one thing that's really, really just, I can see the use for this right away, you know.
Yes.
So fantastic, cool. Well, anything you'd like to add?
I think that.
All right, very good. We're going to get James McNeil back in here and do a quick wrap up. Well, James, out of all the things that I've seen over the years, this has got to be one of the coolest things.
Yeah, it's cool.
This is really neat. It's the new ATS Misfire Detector, and it's here at Precision Automotive. It's just one of the plethora of equipment that these guys have to keep you going down the road well. Now, the neat thing about this, though, and what is so cool, and Neil talked about this too, is every car has an exhaust. So it doesn't matter what you're driving. You don't have to worry about, well, I've got, you know, a Mercedes or a Porsche or Hyundai. It doesn't matter. You guys basically can get them covered with this piece of equipment.
You're right. Every car has an exhaust, and every car has a #1 cylinder.
Right.
And as you can tell, it takes us less than 5 minutes to hook up and get some valuable data to help people's cars run well.
And the neat thing about it is it's one of those things that it's so easy to illustrate as far as the customer is concerned too. And you can come back here and it's a graph. You see it right there and you see the numbers. By the time we stopped, we were already up to 210 misses on that one particular cylinder there.
That's right. And you know, the computer showed no codes. And I don't think there's anything more frustrating to the consumer to carry their car to a shop. You know, consumers don't like carrying their car to the shop. That's like going to the dentist.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
With a cavity or something. And then to be told, well, you have no code, so you're basically, you don't know what you're talking about your own car.
Right.
So consumers don't like that. So we want to go the extra step, and even though the data might not be there with conventional scanners, we wanted to add a piece of equipment that could give us that edge to be able to find that problem and get the consumer back on the road.
Well, that's what it's all about.
That's right.
Now, Neil, I think, has found our problem. Did you find it, Neil?
Simple tune-up. vehicle's got 170,000 miles. Doesn't look like they've ever had spark plugs put in it.
It doesn't.
Okay. So
little maintenance would help.
Little maintenance would help, and that's true with just about anything.
That's
so,
right.
Well, guys, thank y'all so much for showing us this today.
Thanks for coming back out, James.
And we are so excited to have you back and doing the program and everything. We get a lot of comments and a lot of positive feedback about it. And of course, if you've ever got questions, be sure and talk to the folks here at Precision Automotive. And of course, if you ever have an automotive problem, you can do none better than to take it here to the fine folks at Precision Automotive. Neil Swafford, James McNeil, the entire gang here, they're already ready to help. I mean, we're here in the middle of the shop right now, and they're literally surrounded by cars. You guys are very busy. So on to another, hopefully, over 4,000 vehicles helped in this coming year of 2016.
And I'd like to thank everyone in Lamar County, and we have a lot of vehicles that come from Oklahoma also.
Absolutely.
Just want to thank everyone for giving us an opportunity to help keep them on the road.
All right, fantastic. Well, you be safe out there, and we'll see you next time.